Okay, it's Toby from Heavyweight MMA here today with Colby Thickness. Today we're going to talk about an up-and-coming fighter, Mr. Paddy, the Paddy Pimblett. Mate, I'm just thinking about it. Looking at you, look a little bit like a scouser, like a bit of a chav, mate. Do you know what a chav is?
I don't. I'm
Oh, you're
curious
going to
to
have to look
find
it
out
up,
though.
mate. You look it up, a
Oh,
chav.
really?
Anyway,
I feel like it's not good.
Man, like there's a lot of stuff on him. A lot of people talking about him. I'm kind of interested in looking at it from from our perspective, people that train and compete, etc. So, what are your thoughts on him, man?
I think he has the perfect personality to be like that next sort of breakout UFC star. Like he's got the look, like he looks like Jay from In-Betweeners. So the memes are pretty much just going to make himself at this point. It's funny you say about this haircut. I'll show you after, and you might be able to clip it in. But you probably saw on my Instagram that where I had that bowl cut, and that was when I was like 17, so that was about 5 years ago now. And I actually got tagged in a lot of Paddy stuff back then, like 5 years ago, and he had the same cut sort of thing.
That's
so
funny,
it's
man.
funny to sort of see it come around like full circle and that. Now he's in the UFC and that. But
right, I'll try and find it and chuck it on here for a second when you mention.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, personality-wise, like I think he's hilarious. He's entertaining. Even his fighting style, like I'm not sure about like what his ceiling is and where it will be in the UFC, but to put sort of fans in seat, he's got the perfect style for it.
That's it, man. I'm kind of interested in your perspective on on his skill set also, because obviously, like you said, he's the man. He's a very good guy to get on the camera and talk. He's very personable. He's interesting, fun, nice guy, and everyone's watching him, man. His Instagram followers just shot up. There's interviews everywhere suddenly. But I want to look at him from the perspective of his skills as well. So you watched his last fight?
I've watched a few of his fights now, yes.
Yeah, I watched a few of them as well. And what are your thoughts on, let's say, as an overall sort of MMA fighter, what are your thoughts on him now?
Currently, how he is right now, some people might disagree, but I don't see him sort of slotting anywhere in the top 15, to be honest. I think he's got good jiu-jitsu, he's got good wrestling and everything like that, but I don't think his gas tank is where it needs to be. And I think his biggest flaw is just his stand-up. Like, don't get me wrong, he looks better in this fight. He showed he has a knockout power in that, but you look at anyone in the top 15, you can't sort of willingly exchange with guys like that. Like, you'll get put to sleep sort of thing, I believe.
Yeah, man, it's questionable, isn't it? Like it's really hard to know because we're only guessing. On one side, he's got that charisma, and like Connor isn't really the best at everything, and he still had a way of getting to the top just on his pure willpower and determination and mind games, etc. And I wonder if that'll come into play because I kind of have the same thought as you. Like in the top 15 of the lightweight division are all killers, man. I was just looking at the roster before. The top 5 guys are all amazing. And Paddy doesn't stand above them in any of their skill sets. No. Like you look at his jiu-jitsu, which is what he was renowned for earlier on. And his jiu-jitsu, he won't come up to like
Dariush or someone like that.
Or Dariush or these guys that are high level black belts, right? And then he's not a wrestler, so he's not going to be able to handle the wrestling of like of Chandler or Gaethje as well, right? And then stand up wise, like his skills are kind of a little bit unique, but kind of elementary as well, right? In a way, so it depends on like how much will he has kind of the win. Like, does that really come into it?
Yeah, exactly. How old is Paddy actually?
I think he's 26 from memory.
He's 26. Yeah, he's 26. Yeah, born 1995. So he's still pretty young though. So that's definitely like a promising factor. So I think personally, like him, because as most people know, he got the opportunity to be signed to the UFC earlier in his career. I think what he did weighting was absolutely perfect. I think like 25, 26, especially if you want to make a run for it, that was like a really good age to sort of get in. Where, as you see, even just his physical like attributes, like he's definitely developed over the years from sort of being like that more softer looking kid look to now where he actually looks fully developed like a man sort of thing.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but I think like you were saying, some top 15 guys, it's going to be hard. But then again, we're only seeing the one fight in the UFC. So I think we're going to have to sort of follow along and see where he can end up.
Yeah, he's an exciting character, right? Like he's got so much charisma, man. So looking at his striking from the last fight, the commentators were talking about, he's got his chin up and his hands down, etc. It's true, but at the same time, there's some good people around that also carry their hands a bit low. His chin is up a bit more than most people that compete in UFC, I would say. But you saw him get cracked with that big left hook, and maybe that's why he doesn't mind having his chin up, because he can take a punch, man. And like he said, I'm a what do you say? I'm a scouser, and scousers don't get knocked out. We take them all night or something like that. Like, he's obviously got a good chin, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like like you said, his style, he did have his sort of chin up in the air a bit, but yeah, like you said, he copped some big bombs. The big thing I saw was it wasn't so much when he was more just sort of plodding around. That was more when he was like, even commentary picked up every time he would start to throw, then he would drop his hands. So it's not so much like that big one off. I'm just sort of more thinking it's the punches that he won't see coming in big exchanges, which is the ones which might eventually put him out. Whereas if he's sort of dropping his hands and he's get clipped off a one off, he can sort of tense and take it. But when he's throwing his jab and he's constantly dropping, or he's dropping his right hand after he throws his cross, and he starts getting clipped by like good heavy hitters in that division, I think that's when we're really going to sort of see what is this chin made of. But let's be realistic. Like I feel like if you chuck it in with like a Brad Riddell, just a good example of city kickboxing. Like, I feel like you can't do shit like that against Brad Riddell, otherwise you're going to get knocked out, sort of thing.
Actually, funnily enough, when I was looking at that list, that was a fighter, I reckon. That's the fight. That's his next fight for me. Fight Brad Riddell. Brad Riddell's got the skills more so in the stand-up. Paddy's obviously probably high-level jiu-jitsu alone. Wrestling, I'd say Brad's probably got the leg up there just from the training they've been doing. But that'd be a really interesting stylistic matchup, hey?
Yeah, that's it. That's honestly the first thing I was thinking was, because I watched this fight, and I was like, some people asked me like, where do you see it? And I just sort of looked at Brad, and I'm like, I look at who like Brad sort of fought, like his trajectory through the UFC and that. Like he fought Malaki, I think he fought Magomed Musamayev, or however you pronounce his name. And then he fought that, I think it was that Brazilian or that Chilean bloke who was like 23-1. So I'm like, he fought some killers, and I was trying to sort of compare like Brad's to his, and I honestly feel like you gave Paddy any of them 3 fights that Brad have, I don't think that's a favorable matchup for him in any of them.
Yeah, man. And getting back to his punching, just for a minute, it kind of reminded me, John Wayne Parr, Thai boxer from Australia, world champion, multiple world champion. He was punching like low like that. Wayne Parr kind of does that too. He doesn't stick his chin up the same way, but he kind of uses the torque of his body. He doesn't worry about the defense so much, because his feeling is that they should be worried about defending themselves from my punch. He just puts everything into a real torque and holds his hands down. He doesn't think about like having one hand up, blah, 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 defense, because he's attacking. And in a way, he's using that same sort of torque. Like he's just generating force from a bit lower down rather than worrying too much about the defense. So whether or not his chin can cope the punch of a Chandler or someone, I'm not sure. But I think it's mainly about generating the force, yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, don't get me wrong, I think he's in the UFC now. We've seen plenty of his footage, and like he can throw hands and that, but he's just not at that level of some of the other sort of elite strikers within that lightweight division sort of thing. So I think the UFC, if they do want to build him up, which of course they're going to, like, look at how much hype and that he bring. Like, he has more followers than the main event on fucking Instagram now off his first fight. So like he's got unbelievable hype around him. So I'm sure the UFC will probably give him a few more matchups which will be more favorable to his style. But I think once he does start fighting sort of top 20 guys, and that, where he's really going to start to run into some problems unless he continues to sort of, which I think he will sort of tidy his game up, evolve in that. But I do think if he went in right now as he is, he wouldn't go too good in the upper echelons of the division.
Yeah. And one thing I was kind of impressed by, also compared to some of his earlier fights, is his high kicks are kind of coming along pretty nicely, right? Like he flicks that lead leg up like effortlessly and very fluently, and he's doing a variety of kicks and that, like, different types of kicks. He's looking very good, man. And he also chopping down the calf kicks. Although I don't know if you noticed, but he was starting to get hurt, I would say, more than the left hook. He was starting to get hurt from calf kicks. If you watch the guy cracked him a few times, and I heard the commentator say he hasn't got a mark on him. If they look at his calf, you could see midway through that round, he had a big red welt on it. And just before he shot one of the takedowns, he'd got a big hit on the calf. And I think it was just mounting up. He had like 5 or 6 good shots on the calf. I think it was starting to worry him, and that's why he shot. Yeah. Did you notice that?
Yeah. I honestly didn't notice that sort of kick part. I did notice, like you said, his left leg kicks, even just like his teeps into like just to clear the range, and like he's very good off his lead leg offensively, which was a good thing to see, because obviously earlier on in his career he didn't really have that many sort of tools off his left leg and that. And that's a good thing to see too, because it means that he can obviously grow as a fighter. He's constantly learning, evolving, that sort of thing. So I think it will sort of play dividends sort of if he can build his style around that, if he can keep his lead leg, get his hands tidy behind it, and it's really going to make a difference. But like you said with a calf fix, I noticed he got a few, but I didn't notice for swelling or anything like that.
Yeah, have a little look, man. He gets smashed on the calf. I think if it had gone a bit further, he might have had some trouble with it. Hey, man, and being a grappling expert as yourself, brown belt BJJ fighter, what do you think about his BJJ skills? I noticed in some of his fights, he's like doing everything. He won one fight pretty well by jumping triangle in the round. Yep. You see him doing rubber guard, palada, leg attacks, heel hooks, trips, double legs, everything. He's a pretty like reasonably high level jiu-jitsu guy. I'm not so sure about his opponents at that stage, whether they were, but he looks like he's got a lot of tricks.
I think his best way to describe him, he's very crafty with his jiu-jitsu sort of thing. Like, he's not the type of jiu-jitsu guy who's going to sort of, who's in guard. He's not going to try and off balance to set up sweeps and get on tops and that. He's honestly just, his style is he's just trying to look for the finish of that back, because he's got a fair few rear naked chokes. He's got, I think, the 2 flying triangles as well, or one went to an armbar sort of thing. But even just crafty things like that, where people are against a fence, he hand fights, put it in position, and he jumps triangles. If he's on the ground, he will start just sort of hunting, chaining 3, 4, 5 submission attempts together, which I think is a perfect way to be with jiu-jitsu. Like, I feel like some guys still can get away with it, but unless you're like elite level, it's not really viable to sort of stay on your back, try and off balance them, sweep them, or come underneath, especially when you're getting punched in the face. I think you do need to constantly threaten their submissions, so they're a bit more wary of the ground strikes, and that can be another good way to set up your actual submission attempts or to create space and get up. And he does that very, very well.
And what do you think? How do you think he'd cope with the pressure of a high-level D1 wrestler, like pressing down on him? Because he likes to be on his back a little bit, right?
I think at the start he'd do all right, but I think he has gassed in a few fights before, and I think that grindiness of the D1 might wear him down, to be honest, because wrestlers are that real sort of grindy style where they will get off balance and they sort of stay. They won't be as sort of heavy on the ground and pound. I think if someone could limit Paddy's sort of scrambling abilities and options and availabilities to throw up submissions at will, we have seen him tire over the course of like a few longer fights. And I think that's going to be like a real bad stylistic matchup for him. Like, get like an Islam or someone like that who can grab a hold and not let you move, not let you get your hips back in that. I think it would be a long night for him.
Yeah, man. And I want to get a couple of predictions from you, man. Do you think that the UFC will give him an easier fight coming up, or you think they'll throw him to the wolves? And secondly, what would you see his potential to reach what sort of level in the UFC?
For his next fight, I think what would we give? I think they're going to give him the most favorable matchup where it still seems like it's a bit of a challenge, if that makes sense. I don't think they're going to give him like some guy like who's sort of 2-2 in his last 4. I think they're going to give him someone decent who's maybe on a good win streak or something to get a bit of hype, but it's going to be like a very good stylistic matchup or just a favorable matchup for him, sort of thing. And for his potential, I think, honestly, if I judge him right now of today, I would say anywhere in the top 15 is going to be very hard for him to crack. But who knows? He might just constantly be improving, and 4 or 5 years down the line, we might have like a future champ or something in our hands. It's just sort of how the fight games go and that sort of thing. It's hard to tell. Yeah, man.
I would say cracking the top 10 for me is a big ask for him, but with the strong belief he might get it done. Hey, I was listening to Sean O'Malley today, his podcast with his brother, and he's talking about Paddy, and he's saying, I think they're going to try and build him up like, and then he stopped and started talking about something else. He's going to say they're trying to build him up like me. That's what he was going to say. And then he changed the sound and went off because he didn't want to say himself. He realized at the last minute he was going to kind of bag himself out.
Saying he's going to give him a fucking, like old guys who's been around, has decent name value, but they lost like the last 3 or 4 in a row sort of thing.
Yeah. And and just on a last point, like we've been kind of criticizing him a little bit in that, but I reckon his performance against that Vendramini was pretty good. I think everyone in the UFC, for anyone watching that isn't too into martial arts or whatever, I think anyone in the UFC is a killer. And that guy came to fight, and he came in strong, and he was a good technical fighter in every sense of the word, on the ground, on his feet. bit of punching power, kicking power. He hurt him with a few shots, whether he likes to say it or not. Hit him with some good body kicks, calf kicks, punches to the head, took him down, held him down. So he wasn't a bum and he knocked him out or he finished him. So in the first round, like he said he would. So props to Paddy, the baddie. He's pretty good, man. I'm impressed.
Oh, yeah, definitely. As much as like we're talking about like his ceiling where we think we're seeing, like right now, he's still for 26 and that. He's definitely like, he's someone to watch out for. Everybody's going to want to be like tuning in for his next fight. Like you said, he fought a good experienced opponent who only had 2 losses. He obviously like faced some adversity getting rocked. So he showed that he's a fighter. He showed a lot of game developmental sort of improvements in his game from his last fight. He worked like even though his hands weren't clean in a sense as much as you sort of want to see like guys who you talk about being hot prospects and that, he has decent hands. His kicks are good. He's definitely got the solid jiu-jitsu to back it up. His wrestling sort of thing. So I think it's just going to be sort of, everybody's just going to have to tune into the Paddy journey and see sort of how far he can go with it.
Oh man, and it's a breath of fresh air, a new face. I'm pumped to watch his next fight. So let's stay tuned and see how he goes, man. Thanks for your time again.
100%. No worries at all, bro. Yeah, definitely keen as to watch his next one.